So we're up to Chaf Aleph on the base, about 7 lines on the top of the Blanca Mother, and basically what we're learning about is we're still continuing the discussion of Rabbi Yehuda and Tanakam. Now, why we brought this discussion here, we'll see in a minute. We'll come back to our Mishnah. Our Mishnah talked about if you can sleep underneath a bed, which is in the Sukkah 10 Tvachim high. Rabbi Yehuda says no issue, no drama, and the Tanakama says, which is Rabbi Shimon as well, says that you cannot. And he talked about his servant Tavi, who was exempt from Sukkah. He used to lie under the bed, but no one else can. So we went into a totally different subject, which we'll come back to in a minute, to addressing our Mishnah. But basically, we talked about a natural oil, a cover. Is that considered oil or not? Rabbi Yehuda says no, because he learned from the Mishkan that has to be man-made, and the Tanakama says yes, it is. So then we also talked about if it's natural, is not a valid cover. Neither is a roof that is not the normal way of being a roof. So and we're going to get to a bed, because a bed is not meant to be a roof. So we'll come to that in a minute. The idea was that Rabbi Yehuda holds that if it's not deliberately specifically made in order to be an oil, a cover, it's not considered an oil. So we discussed the whole case there by the paraduma, where they put the child on the animal to make sure that he doesn't become tamei, and they put a door there so that if any tumor, it will be blocked by that door. And Rabbi Yehuda said you don't need a door. We explained why we don't need a door, because Rabbi says really the door would be valid. And the reason why don't be valid, we explained that Rabbi Yehuda in exceptional circumstances hold that even if it's natural mechitzas, that if it's raised above the ground, the number of fistfuls, at least the one giant fistful, it's considered already a cover. Not like a tefach normally. He needed a bit more than that. And therefore the door also would have been a valid cover. The only reason why it isn't is we're scared the child will stick his head out. If he feels so comfortable on top of the animal, he might stick his head out and will hover above a tumas at time, okay, right time. We're scared that there's some dead bodies straddling there or all over the place under the ground. So that's what we're up to right now. Why? We're still more egra is a fish. Okay, normal tefach this says ben afiach, maybe with double. Still cover. So the Gemara. So we're up to about 10 lines on top of the page. So now we're going to go back to our Mishnah. Okay, a bed is not normal to be considered an oil, but it's raised from the ground a number of fistfuls. Like we said before, it's 10 tvachim. We get to now. We look at the Mishnah. We used to sleep under the bed. Why? Because we didn't treat it as a roof. We didn't see it as a cover. You just said that even natural, this is better natural. This is just sort of quasi man-made, but it wasn't made for an oil. So, and you said natural is considered an oil if it's more than an egg, right? Like the cow is considered an oil, covers over any dead bodies that are found underneath because it traps the tumor underneath it. And yet, in the case of a bed, Rabbi Yehuda said, no, it's not an oil. Why not? In front of the older people, says the Gemara, shiny meat, a bed is different. Oil, a bed is different. Even though Rabbi Yehuda is moide, that even a natural oil is considered an oil if it's raised above the ground a certain distance, but a bed is not only it's not made to be an oil. It's on the contrary, it's meant to be the floor, because you're supposed to lie on top of a bed of anything. Exactly. Its primary purpose is to place things above it. So the Gemara, shvarim also not meant to cover over the grass. It's meant to put things on top of it. So the Gemara, Ravin, Amar Abelazar, he answers, shiny shvarim. No, you're not right. Shvarim are also meant to cover, to act as an oil. Where I guess the shepherds used to go underneath the cow if it's very, very hot. The chapadremel, they would go under the cow. But not sure how they kept the cow in one place. Or the rain, if it's raining, heavy rains, they would go. So in other words, they did use the animals sometimes on occasion as a cover. So what about a bed? A bed, normally they used to put their shoes and their sandals underneath it. Rashi quotes the Gemara about Basa. We're going to see that who's a Talmud Chacham, he takes his shoes off when he goes to sleep. And I don't know what Rashi says. I think it must be a mistake here. Rashi says here that they used to wear sandals in the winter and shoes in the summer. We always say it all the way around. But Rashi says clearly they used to wear. Maybe it's a Tosafos. I don't know. Oh, that's what he here. Okay, there you have it. But Rashi says they Rashi is interesting. Rashi says, but to put other things underneath the bed, they wouldn't. If you put other in the bed, you'll have people coming underneath your bed. It's not sneeze and all that. Bambi, I think, says, if I remember correctly, is because of tumor. There's tumor under the bed. But Rashi says it's gnai. Says him further. So a bed should also then act as an oil. Why do you just say let us sleep under a bed? The bed also is meant to house things underneath it. Hello, brother. Shiny shvadi, shvadi different. Hoyel va'asuyim lohogin al bnei ma'ayin shalhem. Interesting. Even though it's internal, their intestines and their stomach, their innards, but because it says in the Pasuk Nemar, oiru bosa tal bisheni, that the hide and the flesh is dresses me. Uvatzom is beginning to recheni, and you cover me with bones and veins. In other words, you are protecting my innards with it. It's as if the animal itself was an oil, not just the bottom of the animal. The entire animal is there to cover the inside. That's a positive. You're on top of it, and that's the covered what's below it. And he uses the word t'soichecheni. So and it's not best. It's like to do with the sukkah as well. That so therefore, it's considered like a sukkah, like a cover. Mashenkein a bed is not considered a cover. So the Gemara. So, but why a cow is because that's the pasuk it is. But a bed is meant for mainly for things on top of it. Yeah, true. So yeah, you're right. But once we have it here, we'll say the same applies here as well. He buys another answer. A whole other svara, nothing to do. Really, he's moida. A meter is an oil. It's a number of a grapefruit above the ground. A meter bed is considered a cover. No, so how come you say you're allowed to sleep under a bed when the bed is inside a sukkah? Isn't that in a way canceling out the schach of the sukkah? You know why he's matrid? Because remember, Rabbi Yehuda Shitose holds, he holds that a sukkah needs a didas at a keva. Rabbi Yehuda holds a sukkah has to be permanent. Rabbi Yehuda holds a sukkah didas keva bin. Rabbi Yehuda holds that a sukkah has to be keva. And therefore, since the sukkah has to be keva, and mahabali mita didas aday, and the bed is only temporary, and a temporary oil cannot cancel a permanent structure. The sukkah oil keva, but also oil aday, sorry, but it moves, portable. Portable. And put your bed in the sukkah. You take it out every day, put it in at night. So it's considered portable. So that's the word. Really, it's an oil. And even the oil, which was not specifically made for an oil, there's a number of tefachim above the ground, is definitely considered an oil. But over here, it's different because it's an oil. I cannot cancel oil kit. Shimon, who argues and says that no, you cannot sleep under the bed, he also agrees because Shimon holds, if you remember, you need 4 walls for a sukkah. Abaye made a shitase over there, and he went through all these different opinions that require. Yehuda says oil kebab because he says a sukkah above 20 amas is kosher, which proved to us that he holds you can have a permanent sukkah. Shimon holds a sukkah has to be 4 walls, which means he also holds it has to be a permanent structure. So he holds a permanent structure. A bed is temporary, so how can he hold you not to sleep under the bed? Well, Shimon is kebab bin, and he also holds it has to be a permanent structure, and yet also oil adam kevin. He says he cannot sleep under the bed. Only Toby Abdi slept under the bed. Where it says, you're right. And Bahar Pligi, that's exactly precisely the machlekes between the two. Mar Sabar, one of them holds Ossi oil ara, one of them holds that Shimon holds that it cancels oil kevin if not sleep under the bed. Mar Sabar oil ara, it does not do that. Oh, but Shimon said, by the way, Chase asked you a question about that pasuk. He's talking about a person, not an animal. And how come we don't have that pasuk? So he says that once we know that it applies to a person, we'll say that yeah. Because an animal is horizontal, a person is vertical. When an animal is horizontal, surely it acts like a roof. Shimon said, tells a story about it. After time we learn in a Braisa, Shimon from the conversation of Gamliel, first of all, we learned that Avodim are potter from a sukkah. Why do you need to learn that when we have a general rule that ever is potter mitzvah says among grammar? So Taisa says we would have thought, of course it says Teishu Ka'ain Tuduru, so we would have thought, in fact we have that also, we would have thought Noshim Achayis, because Teishu Ka'ain or Mena potter, because you have to live in the sukkah like you live at home. Since you have an Eved with you wherever you are at home, so you would think the Eved has also Chayv, not a din als Eved, but a din als you. It's a fitzah from the balabas of the house, since he has in the sukkah and he has to live in the sukkah, lives in the house. So maybe it's that the Eved also has to be in the sukkah. We had that in more Erchen. We'll remember we'll have it in more day in more Erchen about that. We would have thought you're going to do it if we would have thought they're potter. In other words, they both are linked to each other. Either they're both chayv or they're both potter. We would have thought one way or the other. and you have to then tell us that no. So that's number one. The Eved is chayiv. Well, also we learned we also learned that if you sleep under a bed, you did not fulfill your mitzvah. I already told you yesterday why I use the expression not fulfill your mitzvah is because the mitzvah sleep in the sukkah as well. Wait, Rashi said. The lema, why does he use the word mesich of conversation? Why do we use a standard lashon, which is mitzvah of sheragamil? From the words, he told us a din, and therefore we learned this. Milsa agabuch mashmul. Actually, learned a third thing from here. We learned two from Gamliel and one from Shimon. That is, how do you know? Even a conversation, a conversation. You know that the Talmid Chacham are having. How do you know tzich liman? You have to listen to every word they say in medayik and learn things from there. Shnema, because it says a pasuk the aleyu and the leaves layibo shouldn't rot away. In other words, the fruits is the teda, the leaves is just the arum, but even the arum, even the periphery, there's some conversations is something that you have to tzich liman, has to be learned and studied, because everything they say is fast. Verbringen. Exactly. There's no Indian listening. So he said, yeah. Says the Mishnah. Now the next Mishnah is in the Gemara is an important halacha from that. We'll see. Let's say you have a full bed and you lean your schach. Here's sukkasa means schach. You're leaning your schach on top of the posts of the bed. So you're using the posts of the bed as your sukkah. And you're putting the schach on top of the posts of the bed. And the sukkah itself is possible for schach because it's a fixture, it's fixed and everything else. But you're putting kosher schach on top of that. Shayna, why not? Rabbi Yehuda says, if the schach, you pull the bed away, the schach is going to collapse. That means the schach is actually leaning on the sukkah. The sukkah is acting as a dover hamaymid, holding up the schach. Psul it is possible. Okay, now. Let's understand Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. My time, Rabbi Yehuda, what's going on, Rabbi Yehuda? What are you trying to understand, Rabbi Yehuda? Why should it be? Why is it that it's possible? Why? And when it comes to the walls of sukkah, we don't care what the walls are. We learned before. Makes no difference. And it's kosher schach leaning on the wall. What's the problem? He's pligi bar abzeda v'rab abba mamam. The problem is, excuse me. That the sukkah is not permanent because the bed moves, the whole thing moves. So it's not a permanent thing. In other words, very important distinction. The bed moves, the ground stays in one place. So the karka of the sukkah stays in one place, but the bed moves, the schach moves with it. If the bed and the schach move, but they're all moving together, most of the thing in the back of a truck or on a ship, that's not a problem because the ground is moving with it. So the sukkah itself is not moving; it's the truck that's moving. Yeah, but over here, the sukkah and the schach are moving, but the ground is not, which means it's not a it's not a permanent sukkah. It's moving around. In the case we learned before about a ship, and we'll learn soon, a few days now, a ship and a wagon. Yeah, exactly. So the sukkah itself is not moving. The truck is moving, the wagon is moving, the boat is moving, but the sukkah is not moving. The sukkah is in the same place as it always was. Here, the sukkah is chach move. That's problem number one. The bed is a portable thing. The chadama, the pnei, but that's so interesting. Then, what would be according to that? These portable sukkahs that you can take out of your, what do they call them? When you take out of your car, you just think about pop-up sukkah. What would a pop-up sukkah be like? Because they you move around. The wind blows them away, and they can just move. I'm talking about a real pop-up sukkah we used to do years ago. Try to go in the country for a place, take a picnic, and you have a pop-up sukkah, and you had a sukkah.
You're making it at that point in time. It's not moving before.
The wind can blow, it could blow right. You move it. It's not tied down to the ground, there's nothing there. It's as light as they come. That's the whole idea. It's light, it's very interesting. Never thought about it. Okay. The wall was too small for those two. This whole thing, you have to sit inside. You basically follow the shear the Mishnah said in the beginning. The problem is you are having the sukkah resting on something which is maimed al davar sukkah. Now, what's wrong with that? Very important Rashi here. How do you know that? This is it. This is going to learn. But we'll see. It's not so simple. So let's learn this. We'll know good. You know well. First, Rashi. Rashi says Shema Mida. The problem is this is called in the lexicon a davar hamayimid. What's holding up the schach is something that's not kosher. So Rashi says here, 4 lines underneath the word Gemara. Rashi says Shema Mida. We learned all the things that disqualify schach. It's only regarding schach. It has to grow from the ground. It should be mekabel tum and all that. Because this is holding up the schach. So Rashi holds the psul is mahatayra, which is important. Rashi holds that mahatayra you cannot have mahatayra according to this opinion in Rabbi Yehuda, you cannot have a davar hamayimid at all. Other Rishonim learn it's only a gzeira midrabanan. We're scared that if we're going to allow a davar hamayimid to be from pasal schach, people don't understand the difference, and they say, "Well, this can hold up the schach. Why can't this be the schach itself?" So there's only midrabanan that we shouldn't use a davar hamayimid that pasal schach. The difference in halacha between these two is, if, according to most of Acharonim, is if the psul is only a darabanan psul. If the disqualification of the schach, we learned a whole bunch of disqualifications. If it has a bad stench, we're scared people walk out, or something that the leaves are going to fall off, we're scared you walk out. All of those things which are only possible with the rabbanon, whether you can use that as a davar hamayimid. Because if like we even string and all that, what we said is a gzeira that you might, because it doesn't look like we said like it's if it like the Rebbe said last time, it doesn't look cotton, doesn't look like it's original, then mahatayra is a problem. But if they were worried that next time you think you can use this as chach and so on, so then any psul is under rabbanon. Then if the whole reason why it's forbidden is because of the rabbanon, we're not going to make a double rabbanon. We're going to say that's all right. But if the psul is from the Torah, because you cannot have a davar hamayimid, then even if the psul is rabbanon, you're not allowed to use that as your davar hamayimid. But let's go back to the Gemara. Says the Gemara, the difference is let's say you put 4 posts made out of metal, you put the schach on metal directly. The problem with the bed is that it's portable, it moves around, but the schach is not going to move because the schach is not sitting on the bed, even though the bed is your posts. But on the corners, the 4 corners of the bed, you put metal posts there, and you're putting the schach on the metal. Then there's no problem. If the problem is that we're worried the bed moves around and it's not of a permanent nature. But a man, we'll come back to the reminder in a minute. We're only talking about that you leaned the schach on the bed. Let's say you didn't lean the schach on top of the posts around the bed, but you put pegs, separate pegs, but you're using the bed as your, you took the mattress out. You're using the bed posts all around it as your sukkah, but you have separate posts to hold up the schach. Surely it's kosher. My timer, what's the reason? He says, it's not a maimid to the schach. Yeah, the frame of the bed is the frame of your sukkah, but you're not using the bed as the support for your schach. You have separate posts for your schach. It's permanent. Because if you move the bed, the schach is not going to move. It's not leaning on the bed, it's leaning on the post. Now, halacha l'maisa is a big plunge to the shir. So many of the Shainim say, well, the halacha looks like Tanakama, not like Rabbi Yehuda. So therefore, none of this is an issue because the Tanakama holds you allowed to make a sukkah leaning on your bedpost. So davar hamayimid is nothing. There are many of the Shainim, in fact, probably more, who hold halacha like Rabbi Yehuda. And the Rai is the fact that we have 2 Rabbanim arguing, what Rabbi Yehuda meant means that they're both saying that the halacha like Rabbi Yehuda. But then, okay, the halacha Rabbi Yehuda, but the halacha Rabbi Yehuda because of keva, the halacha like Rabbi Yehuda because of the hamayimid. That group of machlekes is Shainim. So in Shulchan Aruch we have a steer, and that's where the problem is. If you look at Shulchan Aruch, in the end of Siman Tov Reish Lamed, it clearly says you can learn the Mishnah literally the way it says right here. You can put your schach directly on the bed, and so on, and lean it on the bed. Sounds like we're learning like Tanakama here, which means no problem to remind me. But in Siman Tov Reish Chav Tes, right in the middle there, the Shulchan Aruch says Yeshli is stopping. Very interesting. The Shulchan Aruch should not about ruling. It says Yeshli he's stopping, and it stays that way. I don't think you don't. I can't remember how many other places we have. Maybe one of the places I remember. Yeshli stopik. There's a suffix. If you can put a ladder on your roof and then place chach on top of the ladder. Now, a ladder. What's the suffix? There's 2 ways to understand pshat shulchan. What's the suffix? One way to understand pshat. This is a taz. The taz of pshat shulchan is nothing to do with davar hamayimid. The problem is remember before that if you have like arrows. If it's sticking out, socket, sticking peg, not a problem. But if there's a clay kibble, it's a problem. A ladder has a clay kibble, but now it's blocked. You covered it. So the issue is stopping. How do we view the steps of the ladder? Are the steps of the ladder makabel to because they can come out of the ladder and then we'll have a clay kibble, or not? Because right now it's a full ladder, and therefore that's the issue stopping. The Monger Ram says no. The issue topic is it's a double maimed. It's holding up his chach. The Yeshua is also placing down a top of his chach to hold his chach down, to bed it down. Yes, the stop is double maimed. So the Monger Ram asks, so what's going on here? What do you mean topic? In Tafresh Lamed, you said that we're not worried about double maimed. And here in Tafresh Chavtes, you're telling us just stopping. You're not sure. So he gives two answers. But the second answer is, the Monger Ram's second answer is that l'chatchila you're not allowed to use double maimed. Tafresh Chavtes is l'chatchila. In Tafresh Lamed, the Lashon Shalom is if you did it, you did it. So you don't have double maimed, but the evidence it's all right. The Alter Pascha is like the second answer among our room. So we don't have a double maimed that's possible. And the others Pascha as well. Some others are make. And generally it's accepted in the world. We don't use double maimed l'chatchila, but the evidence it's all right. Chazonish goes further, and there's a whole bunch of Achreinim who follow him. I'm not sure if he's the first one, but he's the biggest proponent. A maimed of a maimed goes a step further. A maimed of a maimed is also awesome. So if you nail down, if you have, let's say, wooden boards to hold up your schach, but you nail it down. The nail is maimed to the board, otherwise the board will fall off. And the board is maimed to the schach. It's called a maimed sheba maimed, and he asks that as well, which is a big chumrah.
It's got like a pergola frame.
That's right.
So you've got your cross beams. Each one of those is nailed into the other one.
That's right. That's right. So he said that's called a maimed of a maimed, and it's a problem if it's nailed in. Yeah, that's what he says. Sorry? More boards on top of that, yeah. That I don't know. I haven't really seen people be following it, but there's a shit. Exactly. That's what Maimed. That's a very good chumrah. And okay, so even Maimed, so chachila not b'di'evet. That's what we say. The Ran comes along and asks a question. So how can we see that you can put schach and other puzzles as well directly on stones? You have a stone wall. So he says because when it comes to stones, we can't. It's not. When it comes to stones, nobody. If the reason is because of Gzeda that next time you think you can make that normal schach, since it's not normal to make schach out of stones, therefore it's not really an issue. No, but the Ran, if you learn like Rashi, but the problem of Dover and Maimed is that it's also Mahatoida, because as if you makal schach, then you're not allowed to put even on stones. You can't put on anything. It has to be mamash on top of something which is kosher for schach. If you learn because of the Gzeda the Rabbana that we're scared that next time you'll use that as real schach, but anything which nobody uses as regular schach, so that for example, placing the schach directly on a stone wall, nobody's going to use stones for your schach, and it's no issue whatsoever.